Good afternoon. Welcome to my session called Chinafy. And this is the first time that there has been a session 100% dedicated to China at a technical conference, and I'm very happy that NDC let me submit this. It's a very different talk than I've done over the past years, which is usually about Azure or Visual Studio. But today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics. I've been running SSW for 25 years, but I have had an office in China for getting close to 14 years now. And I am going to kind of give you a bit of a summary of how that's gone. And there's a lot of opportunities there. So China is about to become the world superpower. It is not far off it on the numbers. And this will be the very first time that we've had a developing nation as the world superpower. It will also be the first time that a country from the East has been the world superpower. So if you think about the East, you've got like Korea, China, Japan, Vietnam. You've got a third of the world's population there. And of course, the Chinese understand their culture and they understand the West. The West, we understand our own culture, but we don't really understand the East that well. And when they are the dominant, entity, that's a huge disadvantage for us. We're behind and we don't fully understand it. That's going to create a lot of problems in strategy. That's going to leave us a little bamboozled why techniques that work in the West don't work in the East, and we're going to lose a lot of opportunities. So I'm going to talk today and hopefully give you a little bit more of a sense of what you can do, because they have a lot of money now. They're doing a lot of cool things. They're innovating faster than us in many areas. So, who has deployed an app to China before? Couple of hands only. That's terrible. Who's been to China? Okay, 25% of the room has been to China. That's great. Well, that's one of the best things you can do. So here is how I've broken down the talk. I'm going to talk about history, and then I'm going to talk about the Great Firewall. It's a problem. Then we're going to talk about living in a mobile-first world, and then I want you to understand who the big guys are over there. Then I want to talk about the cloud. The landscape of the cloud is different. And then I want to talk about kind of my rules for succeeding there. So that should be enjoyable. This is me. I am the Chief Architect at SSW. I'm a MVP. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director. There's a few of those in each country around the world. I have been using Azure since the beginning in 2008. I've crashed a Tesla. Haven't really, just Photoshop crashed it. And I have two beautiful girls, and I took one of those girls to China last year for 3 months. And so, and I should tell you that when you talk to someone who's been to China, okay, and quite a lot of you have, if they say they've, who put up their hand that they've been to China? Okay, a few. All right, I know you, Peter. Kiwi. They let Kiwis in here now. Okay, all right. So, when did you go? 2007. All right. Okay. So, I go most years, and every time you go, it's different. So, if somebody tells you they've been to China in 2007, it's irrelevant. What they know is irrelevant. Have you been since then?
Yeah, a few times.
When?
2015.
Still irrelevant, okay? Basically, each year I go, I learn a lot more stuff, okay? When I went with Ruby during that time, in those 3 months, we didn't use a credit card once. We didn't use cash once. Like, everything is WeChat Pay or Alipay. That's how you get around, it's everything. All right, so I should also tell you we have a cool mobile app that you should all install. I'll give you the code at the end, and all you have to do is install that app, scan the code I'll give you at the end, and you'll get a Mi Band. So that's pretty cool. Mi Bands are the Chinese bands, and they're kind of cooler than the Apple Watches. Well, you only have to charge them once a month, so they're pretty good. So I went to China when I was 20. And back then it was very different. Everybody wore Mao suits. And I think I had a bit of a misunderstanding of what communism is. Like, for me, communism meant not capitalists, not wanting to make money. Completely wrong. Chinese love making money, okay? They just don't vote. That's kind of the major difference. And they have a lot of regulations, all right? We went and visited a company called, I think it was Blue Day, and they're the #1 gay and lesbian platform in China, okay? I said, aren't you worried about being shut down? They go, yep, we can't do anything about it, but we've made sure we're #1 in this country, this country, this country, this country, all right? So they work around it. This is, who knows his name? Oh, 15% of the room, not good enough, all right. So Xi Jinping, you should read every article you can about him, and he's authoritarian. He's certainly a strong man. He is going abroad. In the history, China has stayed within its walls, but he's going abroad. And he is also innovative. Like, he's released a lot of papers, does a lot of speeches. There's a lot of initiatives, and we'll talk about China made in 2025 and Belt and Steel road projects and a lot of big infrastructures, but he basically has made it very clear, China, you're going to be #1 in the world, okay? And China, you're going to innovate. And we'll talk about some of that stuff. Everything in China is huge, and the regions in China, took me a while to understand this because I set up SSW, the first office, in Beijing, because it's the capital, big. It's kind of like Canberra, it's government, all right? Shanghai is more the area where e-commerce happens, where the financial capital is. It's incredibly spectacular, and that region, and like there's 3 cities, it's a 3-city kind of triangle, is that area. In Guangzhou and Shenzhen, that's where all the hardware stuff happens, right? It's a bit of an overgeneralization, but that's kind of how it's broken down. So of course, when we wanted to set up, look, everything in China, like the Alibaba. Who's bought stuff off Alibaba? Okay, whoa, all right. So 80% of you have been looking for a good deal, hey? So that is in, it's actually in Hangzhou, okay? Alibaba is in Hangzhou, but in this area. And that's where we set up our second office, all right? And that's where Ali Cloud is, etc. So I was talking to one of the guys in my office. We're sharing screens, Jason Taylor, he's doing a talk here. And I was just talking about the scale. And I said to him, look, you're not thinking on the same scale, Jason. And I was watching his screen as I was telling him how big is Alibaba, and I saw him type, and I'm seeing what his screen was saying. And so he's double checking me all the time. And then I said to him, I'm seeing what he's doing. I said, well, that's Alibaba. I wasn't even talking about the biggest one, Jason. Do a search on WeChat, like 1 billion. We're talking numbers you're not used to. So this is Hangzhou, where I set up the second office, and it's a beautiful city. That's one side of the city, and that's the other side of the lake. It's called West Lake. It's pretty awesome. And this is the city, and there's Ali Cloud out there, and Alibaba, and Alipay, and Huawei. They're in the news a bit. And NetEase. And NetEase, they run an app called Koala, like koala bear, okay? And that is where the Chinese go to buy stuff that's Western, all right? So all the imported products. And by the way, these slides are a little bit out of date, I guess, because a few weeks ago, Alibaba bought NetEase and got Koala, okay? Because they're dealing with some serious competition, and we'll talk about WeChat soon. There's the university, and I set up the office over there trying to get in the middle of it all. China is hard. Who said that? Every person I've met, all right? And this is a little bit of the history. Microsoft entered China in '92. Alibaba comes online. Baidu, the search engine, comes online. Amazon goes into China, doesn't do anything special. Then Alipay comes out, and Google enters China, and all the guys in my office are using Gmail and all that type of stuff. And we're in China, and then the Great Firewall happens, and it is strange. It's really strange because Google works one day, doesn't work the next day. Works the next day, doesn't work the next day. It's really confusing, but we thought that would die away. Well, you soon learn that the Chinese government is incredibly persistent, okay? And that Chinese firewall has been up ever since. Google was blocked, Twitter was blocked, Facebook was blocked. This is a very old slide that I dug out, but the impact was enormous. Like, we don't even care about Friendster anymore, do we? Or any of this, but this is what happened at the time. And he couldn't believe it. And what happened from that point is the Chinese developers developed their own ecosystem. They got Twitter, and they go, we need a Twitter. And they kind of copied it and then innovated. They needed YouTube, or they have their own YouTube. Okay, it's called UQ. And I know it sounds also, but it actually means you are cool. But and they have Bilibili. They have a series of similar types of stuff, but when you're oversimplifying it if you think it's similar, because it's quite different. Okay. So, just to make it simple for you, YouTube has UQ and Bilibili. Google has Baidu. eBay has Taobao. Okay. Taobao is like the Chinese love searching through markets at night time. I went with Ruby and we'd spend many evenings just looking at junk, walking through these night markets. And it actually means searching for treasure. And that's what Taobao. And just like the website, it's got lots of cheap stuff, but every now and then you find something awesome, cheap. Okay, and that's kind of why you spend the nights in the markets or on this site. Now there's more upmarket ones, okay? Tmall is an upmarket one. You've got, to say Facebook and WeChat is alike is ridiculous, but I'll just say it for simplicity. PayPal and Alipay are not even alike, but we'll put it there. And Twitter and Weibo, all right? And we've got, Chinese seem to, I've just noticed this, they seem to love their animals, all right? They've got, JD has a dog, Tmall is a cat, Sunning is a lion, Alipay is an ant financial, Tencent is a penguin, Baidu is a bear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, goes on and on, all right? But don't use a panda. I haven't seen anyone use a panda, all right? That could get you in a bit of trouble. So I decided, because this time when I went, Uber isn't there. Uber's disappeared, all right? I just thought I'd tell you that because even outside the tech world, the things you notice is incredible. So before when we were there, Uber and Didi were competing. And what happened was they were both trying to win, so they kept discounting. The cost, it was cheaper to get in a Uber or a Didi than the drivers were being paid. It was being subsidized. And basically what it did is it made the entire Chinese middle class addicted to ride sharing. And I'll just tell you kind of what happened, and just a comparison. In America, taxis started in New York in 1897. They went to the other side of the country, it took them 12 years. Then Uber arrives, and 3 years later they expand to Australia. What happened in China? Well, a similar time, they started off in Harbin, a northern city. That was their first city. And to get kind of halfway down the country took them 55 years, all right? Didi arrives, Uber arrives, they have a war, and Uber gives up. It's just too expensive. They're bleeding too much money. Didi then expand to Brazil and Mexico. And did you know that Didi has expanded to Australia as well? Okay? When I'm down in Melbourne, it's all Didi. In Geelong, Didi. Newcastle, Didi. Okay? It hasn't come to Sydney, but you can see what is happening. All right? And I wrote a blog post about this, and because I always ask the taxi drivers, because they're always running both. They're running Uber and Didi, but they take Didi riders first. Do you know that? Because they get paid more. Interesting. So anyway, that's the blog post. So also, China mainly, every company I visit, they're only talking about kind of winning the Chinese market, because that's all that matters, okay? But you are starting to see some of them go external. You're seeing AliExpress, WeChat has 100 million users outside China. If you walk through Sydney, now I'm used to paying everything on WeChat Pay or Alipay. You can, you walk through a city, you see those little baby icons, and you know you can pay that way. We've got China announcing Made in China 2025. All right, I'll talk about that. So, how many people recognize what this is? How many people recognize what that is? What do you think it is, sir? One Belt, One Road. Very good. I thought you might have said the Silk Road. Okay, looks a little similar. So, they also announced this Made in 2025, and President Xi Jinping says, basically, like the executive summary of it is, you're going to innovate. I don't want you just to be, it's not good enough just to copy stuff that you see. I want to see new stuff, and I want to see finished products. And I want to see high quality. I don't want made in China to have the meaning that it has now, which is cheap. I want when people see made in China, it's going to be expensive and it's going to be finished products. We're not making components for everyone. We're going to make the full box and deal. Okay? And the other one is it better be green. All right? So that's what he talks about. I did find this fascinating. Came across this as a random piece of innovation. This one company has taken over as Africa's #1 phone. Now, I just looking at the stats, it was incredible. But by 2017, they had overtaken Samsung. This is a brand you've never heard of. It's called Techno. That's the phone brand, but the company is Transition. But you can see they've taken on Samsung and Huawei and beaten them. And what they did is they just made a phone that works beautifully in the African market. Big fat battery, because they don't care about weight. Multiple SIMs, because they have such unreliability. They made a camera that works better with dark faces, because cameras are optimized for light faces, etc. And it's just an amazing set of articles. This company, where does it come from? Which part of China? Shenzhen, okay? And yeah, so they basically, and they also did a bit of marketing. I don't know why some of these phones have a crazy amount of SIM cards as well. And yeah, so basically, when they started it off, you know, it's a Chinese article, but you can see that they made a camera that works, you know, beautifully with the dark faces. So, you know, so that's a bit of innovation, and now they've become #1. All right, so they're over 50% now in 2019. So the One Belt, One Road initiative, that is expanding, you know, socially. You know, I expect to see a whole lot of YouTube ads, and you know, our kids will hear of this a lot about, you know, that it'll be sold to us about the benefits of who's being on it. You know, obviously it'll probably have military implications, but mostly it'll have money implications. And there's that One Belt, One Road is going to impact 62% of the world's population, and there's 65 countries in. Donald Trump tweeted, "The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make the US manufacturing non-competitive." So he's got a handle on it. And we have, at this point, a prediction that soon, this is a Bloomberg stat, that in nearly 2030, they're going to overtake in GDP. I kind of think this is quite irrelevant, okay? If you look at a lot of other stats that I see, China has already overtaken the US in many areas, like progressive areas. So this is the Silk Road, and if you ask me, it's history kind of repeating itself again. And I've included a link so you can have a look at it, because this Belt and Road affects countries in different ways. And it's really, and there's an awesome article that you can read. It's certainly empowering to see what's going on. And can be scary when you look at the numbers. 4.4 billion people, 62% of the world, $26 trillion on this Belt and Road project to get stuff in and out of China quick. okay, by ports and by rail, etc. So, as far as we're concerned, there's a lot of opportunity there that when I talk to customers, my customers care about making money in America or Europe. And almost all of them are making $0 in China. And it's a terrible waste. I remember when we used to develop a lot of desktop apps, and then we started trying to teach our customers to go to the web, you know, and then we went to the web, and then I wrote this page because Google was, you know, in the tech community, Google was popular, everybody else was using Alta Vista. And I wrote a page called Rules to Better Google Ranking, and it was just, I'd never had such a flood of traffic to this one page. And whenever you search Google ranking, it was the first page. You know, imagine that now. And you wouldn't develop a website now that wasn't optimized for Google, would you? So why do we develop websites that aren't optimized to run in China? And that's kind of where we're at. And I think that, you know, the industry will naturally start solving this. So, all right, so they love shopping. They love shopping and they love, and I want you to see the stats. So, you know, in America, they have Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Huge shopping days, huge shopping days. I want you to know that about just over 10 years ago, Jack Ma, who knows Jack Ma? Okay, so that's 3/4 of you. Jack Ma, for the other quarter, go home, Google Jack Ma, watch some videos. My kids have had to grow up watching him. He's like Richard Branson, but funny, all right? And he's really, he's the CEO of Alibaba. But he thought, you know what? We need a sales day that I'm going to make and promote. And he called it Singles Day. Now, if you think about the concept, what you do is you buy yourself a present, okay? Now, if I was to participate in such a day in Australia, if there was a day called, my wife would think it was weird if I started participating in buy myself a present day. But in China, like I've been in the office on Singles Day, they don't buy themselves a present, they buy themselves like a whole lot. And there's just piles of crap coming into the office on that day because they're all looking for good deals. And the deals on the day are incredible. But look at the numbers. They overtake, like adding up the two big American days on one day, it overtakes it. Okay, $32 billion in sales in the day. I want you to know that it's set all world records, you know, 1.4 billion transactions, 250,000 transactions a second, all right? They actually beat Black Friday in the first 20 minutes. Can you believe that for a stat? So the numbers are phenomenal. So it's basically double the size of those. Now, what is interesting is how they purchase. So the stats for us is 2 years ago, we purchased 20% of the transactions that we make, 20% are on a phone, 80% are on a desktop, okay? It's getting closer to 40% now in Australia and America, but in China, on a normal day, it's 75% on average, all right? So they're well beyond us. If you look at that one particular day, I want you to know it's 90% on that day. They're purchasing stuff on their phones all the time, and that's kind of how they work, all right? So that has other implications. We're going to talk about that shortly. But there's 4 mobile apps that I want you to understand. There's native apps, okay? The one that I just talked about for the SSW one we made for this conference. That is a native app, okay, built in Xamarin, okay, or React Native or whatever you'd like. So they have that as well. They also have web apps, you know, responsive apps, PWAs, and then they have the WeChat official accounts. WeChat official accounts are a little bit like a Facebook, company page, that type of thing, a little bit like. And but they also have these things called mini programs or mini apps. All right, how many people are familiar with those? Okay, so maybe 10% of you are familiar with that. This stuff is important to be aware of, okay? So, everybody, let's install WeChat. No? Who's got it installed already? Oh, good. Okay, so maybe a quarter of you. Okay, so the rest of you should install it. I got this stat a while ago, and you can see in 2015, the growth was phenomenal. I thought it was going to level out at that time, so I kept the slide, but you can see over time, it's just kept on growing, and it's at 1 billion now. It just keeps on growing, and there's no sign of it stopping. In terms of payments, there's a whole series of payment systems that we can use today. I use Apple Pay a lot. Anyone using Samsung Pay? A few of you, yeah? Okay, my daughter uses that. But if you look at this stuff, Alipay and WeChat Pay are way, way bigger. It's way bigger, all right? Now, if you just think about mobile usage, all right, we're doing pretty well. We're an advanced country. We are using it almost 20% of the time. We are not doing as good as some other countries, okay? Japan, the UK. And the Norwegians, you know, they're so rich, that's why they come here and make their conferences. Their numbers blow out everyone, okay? 42%. And that is actually mainly because they have a government app that they all install, and they like interperson purchases as well. So they use that a lot. But even the Norwegians don't compete with China, okay? So, and if you go to the cities, I don't see anything else, all right? So that is, they're the leaders in mobile payments. Now I want to talk about Alipay's Sesame Credit. How many people have heard of Sesame Credit? Oh, only a few. Okay, so this is important, and I didn't understand this very well because if you're a Westerner, you don't see this number on Alipay. But I was at dinner with the guy that runs SSW China. And he was talking to another guy at dinner, and they're talking in English because I'm there and they're just being polite. But now they're talking about a topic and I'm not following the conversation. And they're looking at the numbers, or they're sharing phones or comparing numbers. And I said, what's that? And he said, just the Alipay number. And I said, what's yours? 800. What's yours? 850. What is that? You know, and you know, this is, he starts explaining. But basically, every Alipay user gets a credit rating, which is visible, and they start looking at it. And basically, it's called Sesame Credit because, well, I'm not sure, but I think it means every small thing matters, all right? And, or maybe it's just a play on words with Ant Financial, Ants are tiny, could be something similar. But it is authorized by the China Bank, and in fact, they authorized 12 companies. So Tencent, Huawei, all these big, big companies. When I say these companies are big, they're like bigger than Facebook. They're big companies. And they are authorized to give a number for each user. So you will end up with these numbers from each one of these companies. But the catch is they have to give the data to the Chinese government, all right? And then the obvious next step is the Chinese government will give a consolidated number to each person, etc. Probably, I don't know. So, but they care about it. They care what's there. And so just on the Alipay one, you've got 700 million people that have a number. And these numbers are starting to matter because you're seeing them referenced in everyday life. You're seeing them when they go down, like there's bikes. You know, the bikes are down there. You know how we got these share bikes and people started throwing them in rivers and doing dumb things and putting them everywhere. You know, they're kind of annoying. But in China, they've got way more of those bikes. And those bikes, if you walk up to them and you've got a decent Sesame Credit, you don't have to give a deposit. You can just take off, right? Because you're trusted. There's a lot more bikes, but they're orderly. They don't just throw them around the streets. They put them in the right spots. Guess why? Because if it's not in the right spot, they lose a credit, and they don't want to lose credits, okay? So you get kind of compliance as well, all right? In fact, some of the guys put it on their social, their Tinder style thing. They put their number to show that they're a reputable person in society. So kind of incredible, okay? All right. I don't know if it would have attracted my wife, but probably would have. Okay. So, yeah, you can rent GoPros. There's heaps of cool stuff about this. It's kind of funny. I grew up in a country town in the middle of New South Wales, and one of the things I guess I didn't know, but it was just how things work. Everybody was trusted by default. You went to the supermarket and mum forgot her money or whatever. They would say, no worries, just come back and pay tomorrow, okay? If anybody, when I came to Sydney, to a big city, I had to learn to lock the car. I had to learn to lock the front door. I had to learn you don't leave things on cars because they get ripped off. When you're dealing with someone and say, hey, you take that and give me the money tomorrow, that's not how it works in a big city. Everyone's trying to rip each other off. You don't trust by default in a big city, and the same in China. You don't trust anything. But when you are dealing with people with these Sesame credits and you're sending stuff, by the number that you can trust. Okay, but there's a downside. Okay, one of the real upsides is you're getting, if you've got a high number, you can get a visa quicker. All right, that really matters to them. But on the downside, there's been circumstances where your number is so low you can't travel from one state to another state. Because in China you don't just travel to another state like you fly. You have to get a kind of permission and then you fly in. So if you go to the website like ctrip.com and it says, hey, I can't travel, you have a problem. So there's lots of good and bad about it. So you earn points by good history, by good behavior, by donating to charity. By the way, we don't know this for sure. It's just like Google rankings. We don't know exactly how Google rankings work. We've got a fair idea by experimentation. Same thing. You've got a good salary, somehow your numbers go up. Okay? You've got, if you've got good friends, your numbers go up too. So, anyway, got a good degree? Okay. So you can lose points by not paying bills on time, by getting complaints on the social media, shopping sites, and things like that. Now, I want to move on to the big apps in China. There's lots of big apps. There's Alipay, Taobao, shopping site, JD, cool shopping sites, Baidu, Erlama. Erlama means, are you hungry? All right, so I noticed my little girl, she saw everybody else using this Erlama site, and up pops a ice cream. I go, what the hell happened here? She goes, I just did it online, Dad. And I said, you can't do that. And she goes, oh, it's only 40 cents delivery. Anyway, I didn't let her do it again. So then you got WeChat and Weibo, the Twitter-style site, QQ Music, heaps of these massive apps, okay? But when it all comes down to it, China have a super app, and there's only one app that really matters in China, and it is WeChat, all right? So WeChat is the app that everyone uses. Every meeting you go to, they seem to set up a little group. And at the end of the meeting, they don't go, oh, here's my business card, or hey, send me an email, or let me look you up on LinkedIn, none of that stuff. They just go, who's going to set up the group? And then they set up a group, and they all say hi. They might take a photo and put in the group, and sometimes they chat to you a month later, and you've got this little group of every meeting you've had. But that's the instant messaging part. There's Moments, which is like a Facebook wall type thing, payments, official accounts, and these mini apps. And these mini apps are kind of like the crown jewel. So I just want to give you an experience. So we wouldn't go down to a restaurant downstairs, and if they said, can you install my app? We'd say, get lost, I'm not installing your app. I've got enough apps on my phone, But don't follow that about the SSW app. But, other apps you wouldn't just install. But you walk into a restaurant and everybody has a QR code on their thing, and they just put their phone down, scan the QR code, up pops the app, auto-installed. That's weird. And the app just auto-installs, and then you look at the menu, you pick what you want, and then everybody does it, and then you can watch the status of your meal. You don't even have to talk to anyone else at the table. You haven't even talked to a waitress yet. And you're just watching the status of the food coming through. And it's all very cool. Delivery, you want to deliver something. You just open up WeChat, you do a search, find the mini program, or you can go to an official account. Somebody pops into your office, and how do you know who they are? They have their QR code, you scan it, it says give them the package, gives them the package, and then you just watch it being delivered to the place. And when it's been delivered, a big red tick happens, all right? By the way, in China, when something's good, it goes red, all right? All right. And of course, when something's bad, it also goes red, okay? So they use it for both. And then there's lots of people in China, lots of queues. So in many places, you just scan a QR code. You don't line up in a queue. You get a virtual queue, and you watch that counting down. You wait for your number. Then they say, come and see me. So it's kind of organized. All right. So there's two dominant credit cards, or two dominant ways of payment in China. The Chinese don't carry wallets. They don't carry, well, the offices I was in, I didn't see them carry wallets. I didn't see them carry keys. Their keys, they open front doors with their phone. They carry tissues and their wallet, okay? And I find that funny. What do you think the tissues are for? Because the toilets don't have toilet paper, okay? So they have to carry their own tissues. And Ruby comes up to me on the first day and she says, Dad, the toilet, it's not there. It's just a hole. I said, darling, that's normal. It's a squat toilet. That's what it's called. And she goes, oh, okay, cool. So she goes back, and then I'm in the boardroom working, and then I come out 10 minutes later. She's on YouTube. How to use a squat toilet. She's watching a video on it. It's quite funny. The way that the young people learn things these days. So anyway, they have their phone, and they care about Alipay and WeChat Pay, and you're kind of aligned to one of the others, just like you're a Virgin Flyer or a Qantas Flyer, that type of thing. So here is an example of payment. I took a video of Ruby. This was actually for Mum to prove that she was really learning Chinese. Oh, what's going on here? So she walks into the store. She's learned a bit of Chinese. She says, I asked her, I was trying to prove that she could learn Chinese. She goes, can I get a mango, a large mango, and can you chop it up? Okay, I played the video before and someone said, she didn't say, can you chop it up? She said, can you chop me up? But the woman still participated and sold her that. And she just scans the QR code and the payment just goes through. I always used to wonder, every time we paid, like it would then say on my phone, transaction successful. But the person never cares about looking at your screen. And I always thought that was odd. They scan you, they don't know if it went through or it didn't. But in the background, a little noise plays. So they actually hear whether it was paid or not. Oh, here we go.
So now we get a mango. 请可以对请可以 Okay, so now I'm going to pay. She's going to scan my Alipay app. 请可以
来切一下
So it's about 40 RMB, which costs divided by 5, the Australian dollar is $8 Australian for that mango. Okay, so now we're going to cut it up and it's going to go in a container. What she does is she skins it with this curved blade and then she'll cut it up and it'll go in a container, like this. When we get home, I want to buy a blade like this so that we can cut it just like this. It's so convenient.
Now she's doing the upsell.
谢谢. This is called jackfruit. And it kind of, in my opinion, tastes a little bit like banana. And they're everywhere around China. They're like
Okay, enough of that. And it doesn't taste anything like bananas. I don't know what she's talking about. But that is the main way of paying. And she's got a credit card reader, the woman, and she scanned Ruby's thing with this. And this is the most common way. They also have this in-app payment system in websites. Very not popular, but you see that a little bit. They also have the QR code scanner type thing. So basically, this is the person-to-person. There is another, some of the smaller vendors just have it printed out and do it that way. I was going to speak at an event, and one of the guys in my office, Jerry, says, I will drive you tomorrow. I said, awesome, that's very nice. So he comes early, picks me up, we drive, and we're driving along a freeway, and then for some reason, it's in the rain, he takes a hard right, and he hits somebody else coming that way, all right? Probably wasn't the best decision to make on that freeway. And then he gets out of the car, and he says, I'm sorry for doing that. And she goes, you put a huge dent in my car, that's terrible. And he goes, I'm very sorry. And she said, yeah, well, that's 1,200 yuan of damage. And he goes, oh, no. It's probably about 800. And she goes, oh, all right. There's all this traffic, people's tooting, it's raining. And then he puts it up, and she scans, and she jumps back in the car, and I go, are you going to report that? He goes, no, it's all sorted. And I said, do you have to call insurance, like doing anything? No, Adam, that's sorted. I said, is that finished? He goes, Adam, time is money. I go, all right, okay. Like we'd be reporting that, we'd be going through, filling in NRMA, go from a couple $100 to a couple of grand, anyway, it's sorted there on the freeway. So even the beggars have it sorted, okay? It's incredible. You've never seen anything like it. You go to America, I go to Seattle a lot and San Francisco, there is a lot of homeless there these days. They are still asking for cash. I never carry cash. Okay, they've got to get with the system. Anyway, the other way, and the most popular way that we recommend is in the apps, use the WeChat or the Alipay SDK. Okay, and that's kind of an example here of Starbucks using it. That's the better way of doing it. That's our preferred method. All right. They're always using their phones, but they never run out of charge because wherever you go, you can pull off these battery banks, and they cost $1 per hour or something, and then you can put it back in the next store you go into. So you can always just get a charge on the run. So they've completely sorted that out too. All right. So I just want you to understand, a year or two ago, in 2017, this is the biggest companies in the world by market cap. This is the one last year, and as you can see, these numbers are going up and up. All right. In fact, Alibaba has just overtaken Tencent. I'm sure Tencent will overtake. There's a few other companies going in here. I'm pretty sure Huawei will suffer some damage and go down. But these companies, my prediction is they're going to go to the top. Okay. Their growth is pretty phenomenal. Okay. And you can see even more of them are jumping in. And these companies, like just in the time we spend looking at websites, Baidu is up there, but if we were to include mobile apps in that, you would find WeChat would kill it all. It would be, we don't have the numbers on that, on the screen time, but that would be way more than all that. Now the biggest guys over there are Baidu, Alibaba and Tencent, but don't think of these, like it's easy to say Alibaba is a bit like Amazon, Tencent, social media, it's a bit like Facebook. It's completely a mischaracterization if that's how you think of it. Now, I did update these numbers to put the new ones, so you can see that Baidu is going down, but Alibaba and Tencent are certainly growing phenomenally. But they're a group of companies. It's just like Alibaba are like YouTube, Amazon, Netflix, Azure, what's it, LMR? Uber Eats, Twitter, so all of those. Tencent is a whole like Xbox and like times many. WeChat, WeChat Pay. So these are, I haven't even got them all, but I just want you to understand they're big conglomerates. And there's a whole lot of new stars coming out as well. And these new stars are like ByteDance. Now this is hard to understand. TikTok. Who's using TikTok? 4 people. Well, this is what you're missing out on. was it. But if you go onto TikTok, you might suffer some brain damage, but there's a lot of videos on there, and they're incredible. And I want you to understand, there were these short video sites before, like Vine. Vine was really popular, but it started to wane. TikTok has been growing. And I didn't even show you that on the same scale. Like anything that is successful in China is a massive scale. Like look at that versus Vine. Vines are nothing. Now, here's another video. I don't know what this guy's saying.
黑色超好看，125号色，买它，
买它吗 ？Why？
超好看125，乍一看是那种豆沙色，我跟你说打了灯，
但它其实是有超细闪。
巨细的细闪，而且是金色的、橙色的、粉色的3种颜色的细闪在里面。
See this little thing down here? That's the purchase, if you like this lipstick.
Oh my god!
Of course, the parent is probably saying, what are you doing?
不能用它，会显皮。
Yes.
124太荧光，再一个126 ，Oh my god！这件事好高级。
A little bit of English.
超显皮肤白，白到发光。
But anyway, that little purchase thing there is seriously successful. Now, I don't know this random dude, but just look at his numbers here. Okay, now the Chinese write their numbers, they don't write with 3, a separator after 3. But those numbers are 190 million likes, 5 followers, he's only following 5 lucky people, and he's got 33 million followers. He sold 150,000 lipsticks in 15 minutes, okay? In a single show, he made $2 million. So I'm sure the parents are super confused what the hell he's doing, but he is more successful than probably half the town. And that's just one example. So of course, I mention this stuff because the way that you want to help Aussie customers sell to China is changing even recently. So you want to, like many companies in Australia have been very successful at selling baby formulas. Anything to do with food, the Chinese want to buy foreign food. They don't like buying Chinese food. They want foreign food. And so you can make a lot of money that way. You can put it on the Alibaba store, or you can go social and go WeChat and with the moments and sharing that way, or put it with Vine TikTok, and use this social media approach. It's so our initial helping with companies was just making websites work, but now it's a strategy type of approaching these things different ways. To get on a high tier on Alibaba is really hard and expensive now. So you've got to find these other ways, and that guy is actually an innovator, all right? And he's probably doing as good as Kim Kardashian. And obviously the drones and different things like that. So there's heaps and heaps of that type of stuff. I would like to talk to you about the emerging cloud, just so you know. Initially, your site won't work in China by default. You've got to fix it up. You've got references to Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. CDNs that you're using. Unless you've tested in China, it's not going to work. I've set up a whole set of rules on internationalization, which you can have a look at. But I want you to know the big clouds over there are not Azure and AWS. It's Ali Cloud, it's Tencent Cloud, it's JD Cloud, it's Huawei. AWS has 9%, Azure has 4%. And all the others make up 29%. So they're big. Obviously, if you just look at the data centers, Ali Cloud is really kind of cheap, supports containers. It's another way to deploy. Or you can go the easy way, which we like to prefer, which is Azure in China. It's called Mooncake. That is a nice way. Be aware, the costs are different. Look at the bottom of that slide. You'll see that Azure is about $58 a month. It's more expensive than, say, Ali Cloud, which is $17 a month. Okay, if it's not an issue, then you go with the easy, more mature, user-friendly platform. Or if you just want containers, then you've got cheap container holders over there. So let's talk about succeeding. There's lots of companies that have succeeded, heaps and heaps. There's lots of examples. I like to mention Tesla because all these companies that have red stars are 50% owned by a Chinese company. Okay? That's kind of a rule that the Chinese government make. But Elon Musk has done some cool things like car companies and companies that bore holes and sending rockets to space. But he's also done something else. He's made car company in China that's 100% owned. First person to do that. And if you look on my app, that's my app, it shows that China is number 2 Tesla buyer. Now, the Tesla cars in China currently are a rip-off. You know, to buy a Tesla over there, it's about 180 grand, all right? So you're getting rich people in China buying it. You're seeing a lot of them because there's a lot of rich people now. They're everywhere. Like I'm in a city called Hangzhou last year, and you see a lot of Teslas. But it's status. If you want a car as good as Tesla, there's plenty of them, and they're much cheaper. You can get a Polestar for 60 grand. You can get just a normal basic electric car for 12 grand, like seriously cheap. In fact, my prediction to you would be that your kids are going to be driving around in electric cars, probably made in China. There is the Polestar. It's really nice and it's cheap. These are established car companies in China making electric cars. And there's a few others. And there's more. All right? Plus, they're making electric cars for foreign companies as well. So that, you know, the electric cars coming out of those companies are coming from China. Plus, you have companies like that are just startups only doing electric cars. Okay? Like they're all awesome. Like I couldn't believe it. I'll just click on one. And they're look, that's one of them. They're just nice. Okay, so, you know, they even have an app, all right? So how do you succeed in China? Well, you work with WeChat, you support payments, you do auth differently, I would recommend building a mini app, supporting QR codes, gamification, fix the user experience, translations and localizations. Pick a Chinese name, choose a Chinese cloud, and get good local partners for sales and support. And I know one. So that's a big list. But what are the important bits on that list? If you have to just do your first steps, the translation and localization is really important. You can't do a dodgy job on that. The Chinese are smart. They can tell a Western site. And they don't want Western sites. Every time you give, like someone in my office, a link, they go, is that Western? Or is that Chinese? And like, they don't mind Western brands as long as it's in China. That's why they're looking. Because the reason that will work today and not work tomorrow. They just got their eye on that. And I always ask them, what are you looking at? And so I'll give you some examples. But payments is the second thing you've got to support. Auth has to be fixed. So those 3 things are important. I'm going to add a 4th one, pick a Chinese name because it's so quick and easy. Why not do it? All right? So WeChat has 100 million users outside China now. It's really growing. So install that and translate away. You can give support on WeChat without a problem. Just use the translate button and you can help away. I've talked about meetings, the payments. We understand that you've got to support Alipay and WeChat Pay. All right, so fix that part in your app. Be aware the transaction costs aren't like Visa 1.5 or 3%. They are 0.6% and 0.6%. Unless it's a digital product, WeChat charged 2%. The digital product where they're talking about is the games. All right, so those games are charged at a different rate. So this is how a Chinese person authenticates. I've just taken 3 screen captures, Taobao, JD, and Weibo, and you can see they're all pretty similar. You don't enter email address and password. You enter mobile phone number, it'll send you a code, and you put it in. That's how they authenticate. But the most popular ones are also to authenticate via Alipay or WeChat Pay at the bottom, okay, like we do. All right, so build a mini app. This is our Sugar Learning as a mini app, because obviously I want the guys in China to use it, so we build a mini app for it. It just sits inside WeChat. Everything has a QR code. So likewise, I told you before to install the SSW mobile app. The way that you get any of these things, I'll give you a QR code at the end. But if you talk to any of the SSW guys, you will find that they will have a little QR code. You scan their QR code, and that's give you the points to get. I've even got a thermos that has a cool temperature on the top. So hopefully you'll get into this QR code thing, because every ad in China has a QR code. Chinese don't write down URLs. They just scan QR codes wherever they go. So I've written a very long rule, many pages of how to implement this QR code into your apps, so you can have a look at that. There's a QR code on every single product that you ever see. It's clearly what's going to happen. I even put it on our site. So we started off with just send us an email, then we added phone numbers, then LinkedIn, then Facebook, then Instagram. And someone said to me, add Snapchat. I said, no, we're not adding Snapchat. All right, but we added WeChat. All right, so gamification. Their whole gamification story is amazing. When you order something, like they order coffee on their apps. That's how their coffees get delivered in China. Starbucks, Luckin Coffee. They just go on. When you order that coffee, the coffees come, and then if they're late, they give you red packets, and you get. That's how they say sorry. They say sorry not with words, with action, with credits, which is red packets. So all these things are kind of amazing. I've put a couple of examples here. You can have a look. They're a little bit mindless, but they make you do something to get a discount. And they all have this type of game. See, you just got a red packet there. All right. So I even saw the guy that runs SSW China, like every now and then, Alvin will give some, $100 to the office. And instead of giving, each person $10, $10, $10, $10, because we would want to be fair, right? He just gives $100 and everyone gets it. And then they yell out, who was the lucky one? Who was the lucky one? Somebody gets, $85, and then another person gets $10, and the other poor people get $1.50, and they all think that's cool, okay? So I don't know how to go here, but here's an example. Here's the UI, but basically he gives a little bit of money, and they all go, okay, thank you. And then you can see who was the lucky person. And they all look. It's kind of hilarious. Anyway, that's kind of how the apps work as well. So the user experience. I showed them Twitter, because I was looking at their screens. They're so busy. And I said, what about this? Do you like this? And I was showing them this. And they go, is that a popular site? Because if it's not busy, it doesn't look cool. Okay, they like it really busy. And in fact, I'm going to show you something. Yeah, you laugh. So, where's Billy? So they comment all over the site. And just, if I can have sound, that'd be nice. But you can see, they're all talking and they're all chatting, but the comments are over the video. I don't know how you're watching the game anymore. But this is like a popular game, and there's a competition between Europe and China, which China won, by the way. And I'm thinking, how are you watching this? Yes. And that seems funny. And then I was over there, and they're watching a new car comes out, okay? And this new car was a big deal. Everybody wanted to see it. And then they're watching. And of course, I've translated this to English a little bit. But you can see, hey, this car is so handsome. Better than Ferrari. This front does not leak oil. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know. But a lot of rubbish, but the Chinese don't mind noise over their videos. Okay? And the UI is different. They like busy stuff. They walk on streets. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of crowds. They like the UI's crowded. It makes it look popular. Okay. So the localization translation services, you cannot automate that because they pick it up. They know when it's not properly Chinese. They know when a Chinese foreigner in another country has done it because they're not using the right lingo. They're using different terms. All right? And you end up with assorted risk dish. Bacteria soup. Or I like your smile, but unlike you, put your shoes on my face. That actually means you're a nice person, but please keep off my grass. Okay. So, and you got to pick a Chinese name. LinkedIn went with Ling Ying, which means leadership, so a similar meaning. Microsoft just went with micro and soft translated. Mercedes-Benz went with Benchy, which means rush to die, and didn't work. Okay, there's been a number of these mistranslations that went all over their social media and they had to fix it. So they fixed it to be run quickly, like flying. Okay, and I've given you a link so you can read all the crazy translations. that foreigners have misunderstood and done it wrong. Choose a Chinese cloud, get a good partner. Now, last bit, I'm going to just finish off with a little exercise, because this is kind of what I was watching some of them do in China. What is wrong with this site? How do they know it's not Chinese? Well, it's pretty easy. They see English stuff, all right? That's not always the case, but like that gives it away. Not a Chinese company. Okay, what about this one? How do you know that's not Chinese? That's not Chinese. How would they know? Yes, up in the top right. Sharp eyes, very good. There you go, in the top right, that's how they knew straight away. That's not Chinese. What about that? Is that Chinese? DHL. Now, you can have the logo in China, in English. In fact, a lot of Chinese companies, like Lucking Coffee, says Lucking Coffee, okay? And they're not outside China. So that doesn't give it away. Little things like this. They don't call it People's Republic of China. That's a foreigner that's done that, all right? So lots of little things. Louis Vuitton, they love brands. Brands are awesome. Not Chinese. How can they tell? Addresses are in Western, so that's fine. But they know if that was Chinese, it would have the Chinese locations first. So straight away, she knew, hey, that's not Chinese, Adam. I go, how can you tell? She goes, it would be defaulting to Chinese addresses. Lots of little things. Every site, they pick it up. So adapting to China is going to be a little tricky. Just like we've had to adapt to Europe with their GDPR, bit of a pain in the neck, the right to be forgotten, all that stuff, but we've all done it, right? So you got to fix up the language, fix up the UX, fix up the culture stuff, the different marketing strategies. You know, obviously Twitter and Facebook don't work over there. There's certain regulations you're going to have to deal with. They're all small, and they're just a little extra little hurdle. Lots of little speed bumps, okay? So I've listed them out. Remember this? The Belt and Road? Well, that One Belt, One Road initiative is going to be huge. It's going to have a huge impact. In fact, just recently I saw that they're adding a new route over here when the ice melts. So Donald Trump was right. Well, he'll say he was right at that point. See, it was a conspiracy to get right into the Netherlands with a very fast extra shipping route. All right? So I'd like to finish by encouraging you to download this app, scan that QR code, and you'll get yourself a mug or a Xiaomi band. These Xiaomi bands are awesome. I've got the Fitbit one, but the Xiaomi one's better. Okay, and when you use it, you'll believe me. So in summary, China is the future. There's heaps and heaps of money to be made there. There are cultural differences to learn. Read what you can. The best thing you could do was take a holiday to China. That's the best thing you can do. Because I can explain all this to you. You won't understand it until you've been there. And it's amazing. I've told you the steps to Chinafy your app. If you go to rules.ssw.com.au, you'll see a more detailed list than what I've done here. I'll finish with a quote. China is a sleeping lion. This is Napoleon Bonaparte. Let her sleep. For when she wakes, she will shake the world. And that's what you're experiencing now. Thank you.